That sounds fun. That sounds fun.
Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of That Sounds Fun. I'm your host, Annie F. Downs. I'm so happy to be here with you today and so happy to hear your thoughts on the GAF Christmas movie review episode. Listen, keep it coming with the trees and the cheese. Before we dive into today's conversation, where I think we also actually mentioned trees and cheese, I want to tell you about one of our incredible sponsors. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. When you think about finding comfort this winter, you might just think about cozying up with a blanket and a movie, but the comfort you need could be found through therapy. Not only are the days long and dark outside, but it can often feel that way in our souls too. And this is why I'm such a huge fan of therapy and counseling. The winter can bring up some loneliness and grief, and counseling is such a helpful way to work through that. So give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, so you also don't have to leave your cozy spot. It's designed to be convenient and flexible and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. Y'all know we love a quiz around here. And you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/thatsoundsfun today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/thatsoundsfun. Today on the show, you are in for a treat. My friend Danielle Kartes is here, and she is bringing us the Christmas season food tips and just all-around fun that we need. Danielle is an author, a recipe genius, an entrepreneur living near Seattle, and she and her husband run their boutique food and lifestyle and commercial photography business, Rustic Joyful Food. You can also watch her show on YouTube, Rustic Joyful Food. Y'all, it is so great. It is such a great watch. It's so fun. So we'll link that in the show notes as well. She's written and published 4 cookbooks, 7 kids' books, and 1 devotional memoir. And she is a regular culinary contributor to the Kelly Clarkson Show and the Today Show. You are going to love getting to know her. So here's my conversation with my friend, Danielle Kartes.
That sounds fun.
Well, welcome to That Sounds Fun.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. What a treat.
I feel like in awe.
Let's back up. Me too. Let's back up to the birth of our friendship.
Yes.
1 actual year ago.
Yes.
We both showed up at the LO conference in West Monroe.
Yep. So I came to conference and ended up doing a breakout session.
Yep.
And then I met you, and I was such a fangirl. I literally had like a threadbare sports bra on and a tank top. And I remember I think I told Zach Dasher, I have to meet Annie Downs. I'm locked in. I'm the creep right now.
No, it was
And I remember
great.
tapping on you, and then we were staying at the same hotel, and then we just worked together and hung out. And those 3 days, 2-3 days.
Yeah.
And then we got, sat with Chris Kane, and you were just so sweet and invited me into every circle, and it was lovely. Absolutely lovely.
My favorite part was watching you and Heather Thompson Day become best friends.
Yeah, we did.
Are y'all still close? Do you still
totally.
talk all the time?
Absolutely talk all the time.
She's amazing.
And she has such a tenderness. And the cool part about her is that, you meet somebody and you're like, oh, you're my people.
Yeah.
You're my people, and you can kind of cut through all of it.
Yeah.
And we really bonded over this goofy little story. She was kind of shaking her leg, and it was like an emotional part of the conference.
Yeah.
So I put my hand over on her, and she's shaking, and I thought she said, I tooted. And I was like, oh, we're super close. We're so close that you're shaking. I'm like, okay.
My gosh.
And because I wear my emotions on my face, she said, what do you think I just said? And I said, I tooted. And she said, no, I do this.
Oh.
So I was like, I just thought the Holy Spirit was moving
clarity.
and the toots are coming. And no. So ever since the toot comment, we have just been besties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You and I have a similar story that we've never talked about of filming a pilot that goes nowhere.
Yes. I have filmed so many pilots that go nowhere.
Say that to people.
And people don't understand. They look and they think, oh, your life is glamorous. And no, God opens these doors and then they shut.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
And then what are you supposed to do with it?
That's right.
And we'll get into this, but this summer I had to lay everything down to the Lord. I'm like, God, what do you want me to give up?
Yeah.
Because I'm an achiever and I love business and I like to open stuff up. But then it's like, at what cost?
Yeah.
And if the Holy Spirit and the Lord isn't the goal or the end of it, or if it's taken too much, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Because everything, even food, I'm a recipe maker by trade.
Yeah.
I sell pictures of food.
Yeah.
And how do we bring glory to the Lord in that? There is so much that I'm like, God, you can have it.
Yeah.
And then 9 times out of 10, it gets bigger.
Yeah.
But he has to prepare my heart in a completely different way where I have to give it up.
9 out of 10, congratulations. I'm 6 out of 10 on my best year.
Okay. I have one specific perfect example in my brain, but the pilots that go nowhere.
Yeah.
No, it didn't
and it's
happen.
a funny thing because it's a hard thing it's not a hard thing to share about. It's a thing you don't think to talk about. Because you're like, everybody's business has up and downs and everybody has things they try that don't work.
Yes.
We don't share every single thing we try to make that doesn't actually come to completion.
Absolutely.
But over and over, rejection happens.
Yes.
And over, things start and then do not finish and do not go all the way till the finish line.
Absolutely.
I had a friend say, talking about a TV show, she's in that world and said, you don't get excited till you're standing on set.
You know what's so funny though? I want people to get their hopes up. I really think, like, I love the don't get excited thing, but then I get excited and I'm like, okay, Lord, how can I funnel this excitement? And there's still hurt after it. Like, I'll shed a tear for sure because I thought this was it.
Yeah.
I have a fun story too about how we thought the show was going to happen.
Yeah.
I sat next to a woman who was a big VP mucky muck at this great company that everybody knows, and she was like, pitch me.
Sat next to her where? On a plane?
On a plane on the way to New York.
Oh my gosh.
And she asked me, she's like, what do you want? I said, well, I really want a show. And she said, well, pitch it to me. Maybe we can finance it.
Wow.
And I thought, Lord, this is it. We're going to do this. And I pitched it to her. I made this beautiful deck. It was 10 pages and I didn't hear anything. And I sent it again and I sent it again and it ghosted in the middle of January last year. And I was like, wow, Lord, I really thought that was it.
Yeah.
And then we had the idea to pitch to our clients and we got advertising buy-in and funded the show.
Yeah.
I never would have moved if I wasn't so freaking pumped.
Yeah.
Like, God, this is it.
Yeah.
But this is it, he has something completely different always.
Yeah.
Because I have literally for the 4 successful things that I do, there is 140 that are floppity flops.
Totally.
Where I've lost my house, cars. I mean, when our restaurant closed.
Y'all lost your house.
Oh, yes.
I didn't know that,
So
Danielle.
I talk about that in You Were Always There.
Yeah.
I thought I would never cook again. I thought
And also
cooking
for
destroyed
everybody
me.
to hear, I read every single book of people who come on, but because we're mostly talking about your TV show, I did not read your book yet.
You don't have to.
I read your cookbook. I love reading cookbooks, but I mean, everybody's used to me reading everything. So for me to bring up something that was in a book, they're like, she lies. I did not read
Fake
this
until
one.
you make it, baby.
Yeah, no, I did not read this
That
one.
is an excellent point.
So that's really interesting because you kind of thought, the thing I'm most gifted at is what's ruining my life.
Yes.
I relate to that.
And I will I'm never going to do this again.
Yeah.
I went back to work in makeup. I thought, okay, Lord, like I almost ruined my marriage. I have a brand new little baby. We're living in an apartment. My cars got repoed. Like we had nothing. And I thought I will never cook again. And
what kind of restaurant was it?
It was a New American Bistro.
Okay.
And it's so funny. The other night I was laying in bed and I could envision on the sign, it said Manola. And then it was wine, New American Bistro and Wine House. And we have wine now, and God just restores.
Like one of your companies
one of our
is a
companies
winery.
is wine. We
wow.
are partners with RM Winery out in Washington. So we make beautiful Washington wine.
Yeah.
And I'm the face of it, and they're the logistics.
Yeah.
So I don't actually make that wine.
Yeah.
But it's a big part of our portfolio.
Yeah.
And the cool part
Yeah.
is God restored that when I thought I would. I thought cooking destroyed us.
Give me a timeline. Give me how many years it took from there to here. Like when
13. 13 years, because
People
my little
need to
baby
hear
is 13
that.
years old.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, it just must be so easy. And you're like, no, it's actually a
Or that
slog.
like, I'll be okay in 5 years. You're like, maybe not.
Maybe 13 years.
Yeah.
And I got to be super honest. I'm very transparent. I'm still a freelancer, and there's still times when it's super lean.
Yeah.
Where I'm waiting on paychecks, and people are finishing out their fiscal years, and I'm like, oh, I've got a lot of money going everywhere, and it's Christmas time.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
There's so much that people don't know, but it's all, and just because it's hard doesn't mean we're not called to it.
Yeah,
that's a really
that's
big thing for
right.
me.
Yeah.
People think like when the going gets tough, I got to quit. I got to get out. This isn't the Lord. But if we look in the Bible, it's all tough, way tougher than anything I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
But God called them to it.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like, okay, you got to put your big girl panties on.
Yeah.
Rest when you need to. I'm not the best at that. That's one of my big weaknesses. But yeah.
What? You're an Enneagram 7?
I'm an 8, wing 7.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why you can't rest.
Yeah, I have a really hard time resting.
Yeah.
And then it's funny, I was talking to Jamie last night about like when I'm unhealthy, I'm a 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just interesting. All that stuff is so interesting.
It's really helpful as a tool. It is such a helpful to go, oh, I know exactly
Yes.
my motivations behind why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Our behaviors may look just the same.
Yes.
But why we're doing them is totally different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, tell me the companies. You said when you walked in, you were like, well, I run 4 companies. And I was like,
Oh,
you
that was
do?
so creepy.
No, it was not. Listen, our friends listening love talking business.
Dude, I love business.
I do too.
You guys, when I was in the 7th grade, 8th grade, I sold suckers. Like
Oh, wow.
I would go in my backpack and
Yeah.
I was literally hustling the Rite Aid store, the little
Yeah.
drugstore,
Yeah.
talking to the manager as a 12-year-old, like, when are we getting stock back in?
How'd you get into that? Like, because I saw a reel last night of Babysitters Club, and I was like, I think Babysitters Club made me an entrepreneur.
I was poor.
Okay.
We grew, and my parents, super hard workers. And my dad always said when we were little, like, poor doesn't equal dirty. You take care of your good stuff. You work really hard, and God is faithful.
Wow.
And so when we were little, like, we had a garden. My dad lost his job, and he was a sheriff. He put himself through night school to go back to school, and he's incredible. He was in the military. I had a wonderful childhood.
Did y'all live in Seattle then?
We lived, south of Seattle in Spanaway, Washington.
Okay.
And if I wanted something, I knew my parents were working super hard, like, you had to earn it. So I would sell earrings, and I would ride my bike to Joann Fabrics, which was 1.5 miles from our house.
Oh my gosh.
And I even sold cups of water to construction workers.
Wow.
Like, they're out paving asphalt in the front, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I got water for you.
Yeah.
So I've always had this innate sense to, like, sell something and product and supply and demand.
Wow.
And I'm very tenacious, but I used to think I wasn't the brightest tool in the shed because I never fit into, like, traditional school.
Yeah.
So for a long time, I had a narrative in my head that I wasn't smart. And now I'm in my
Wow.
40s, and I'm like, I'm so smart.
Yes.
But I'm a different kind of smart.
Yes.
And there's so many different kinds of smart where
Yeah.
you might not fit in that traditional box. So it's important for me that women know, like, you don't have to have it all together. Like, and cooking too. Like, we're talking about cooking and entertaining. Some of the most beautiful dinner parties I've ever thrown were with paper plates and on the floor of our apartment when we had nothing.
Yeah.
And I was, roasting chickens and making snickerdoodle bars.
Yeah.
And it's that fellowship and the connection, not the pretentiousness of the food.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even coming into Christmas, like, we're doing prime rib on the Christmas special, but I really went back and forth. I'm like, I kind of want to do poor man's pot roast.
Yeah.
And then we ended up with the team. They're like, well, it's going to be more clickable for prime rib. And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
poor man's
And
pot
it
roast
is,
kind of has
yeah.
my heart. So
Maybe that's January when we're all like back
Yes.
on a budget.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, so the 4 companies you run, talk to me about them.
Rustic Joyful Food.
Okay.
Fluorescence Vodka, which
Okay.
we partner with a distillery out in Washington.
Yep.
And then we French for Water Wine,
Yeah.
which is so near
I
and dear to
love
my
that
heart.
title.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then Rustic Joyful Literary Group,
Yeah.
which where
So you're an agent?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I have. It's so funny because last year I went to a little conference out at Jean Oliver's. She's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
She runs these little creatively made business. She's just a genius.
Yeah.
And so just to be in Jean's presence, like, she's encouraging you. You feel like, I'm going to make a better decision. She shows you how to be here's a plug for Jean, a better businesswoman.
Yes.
She's incredible.
Yes.
And it's neat to get around. When you're a businesswoman, you got to get around like-minded businesswomen.
Yes.
Like, it
Yes.
just is awesome. So when I was there, I met a woman who introduced me to Justin Stewart, who is like a YouTuber.
Got it.
And we got talking because I've had 13 books published. Some of them were self-published, though.
Yeah,
That's how I got
me
in the
too.
game, was self-publishing.
Yep.
And then publishing relationships came years after.
Yep.
8 years after.
Wow.
So it wasn't like this, maybe not 8, I'm probably misspeaking, probably 5.
Yeah, still.
So the first book came
Wow.
out in 2013, and then I published again with a publisher in 2018 or 2019.
Wow.
And people think like that a publisher's the end all. Get out there and publish it
That's
yourself.
exactly right.
Get it out. It doesn't have to be perfect.
There is more than one path to a successful career.
And
as
I
an
was going to
author.
be like lowbrow and be like, there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah, you can say that too. That's true. I mean, it used to be like self-publish until.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was my story and your
Yes.
story. I self-published until
Until.
I got a traditional. And now it's kind of like self-publish or.
Yes.
And
Yes.
figure out what it's a way more viable path now.
Absolutely.
To just stay in
And
self-publishing.
with social media and all the different outlets and ways that you can get your message out
Yeah.
in front of people,
Yeah, that's
I
right.
think that God can do absolutely anything.
Yes.
Because I had no platform at all when I put my book out. Like
Yeah,
zero. I mean,
wow.
absolutely zero.
Was your first one a cookbook?
My first one was a cookbook.
Yeah.
It was called My Heart's Table, and it told the
Yeah.
story of losing the restaurant. And it was
Wow.
all this, and I wasn't healed yet. Like, God likes to give me these projects where I'm healing through it. And I was
Yeah.
sharing about the loss, and we were still
Wow.
not paying our bills. I mean, there was still no food in my house, and we were making a cookbook.
Wow.
And so I remember one of the shoots I would save, and a friend of mine was a photographer, and he would come over, we would shoot all the food, and we would have to eat that food, and flies were landing on the food. And I remember thinking, I have to eat this chicken.
Oh my
Me and my
gosh.
little 2-year-old and my husband.
Right.
And so it was such a wild time, but I remember calling my mom during that time, and she was like, you just put that bad boy back in the oven and you crank the heat up to 425, and any germ that landed on it will be absolutely fine.
Wow.
And that's another one of those pick yourself up stories. Like, whatever you're going through, like, stick it back in the oven and crank that heat up and walk on.
Yeah, right.
We give so much life right now. And we're sort of like, we live in this like, I want to be careful, but I don't want to, step on anybody's trauma. We all have a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're feeding the traumas that we've been through. Like, we're nurturing them like they're yummy.
Yeah.
We just want to hang on. And I feel like God's calling us to, like, let's heal through it and move on from it.
I think that's how counseling helps, because my counselor has said, here's what we need to sit in and here's what you need to let go.
That's good. See, I need to be careful because I'm not a counselor.
You don't need to be careful. You're right, though. I mean, but you're right. I didn't know which ones were let goable.
Yes.
Until a professional helped me.
Smart.
And so I was nursing all of them until she said, yeah, actually 3 of these keep nursing.
Too. Yes.
But 5, you can let's talk through it.
Yeah.
And release it.
Yes.
Go
and
with
it's not
God.
who you are.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Because
exactly
I like
right.
to make it my identity.
Yeah.
And then I went for a long time too. Like, I lost a restaurant. We report. And then I was like, ooh, do I talk about that anymore? And I'm like, oh, I have to reframe that and look what God has done. And that's
what does
a big
that look
part
like?
of my story.
How many weeks before your last meal did you start thinking, we're going to have to close this?
Oh, you know what? I'm a hanger-oner. I am a hanger-oner. And so until we literally got papers from our landlord that said, you're getting kicked out, I was a hanger-oner. God had to remove that from me.
Wow.
And so, because I'm a hanger-oner till the nth degree, I'll literally be hanging on the edge of a building like, we can work it out. The Lord's going to show up.
Yeah.
So sometimes he has to just absolutely remove me from it.
Right.
Which is it's a great strength, but it's also great weakness.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Wow. It's that is incredible, because and when I'm thinking with my business hat on, I'm like, how do you go that long? How do you hang on that long?
You limp through it. And I was literally 9 months pregnant. My husband was working all through the night. When we knew,
Did he work at the restaurant too?
He did. So he delivered bread all night long.
Oh my
and then he would
gosh.
go and work at the restaurant, and he hated it. I mean, our marriage really suffered. We were going to get a divorce during that time. And then when we lost everything, God used Noah, my little boy. He's 13 now.
Yeah.
And I know that I say this all the time, but they say don't have kids to save your marriage. But God used that and the loss of our restaurant to bring us back together and show us what was important.
Yeah.
And having a baby is hard, but losing the restaurant was harder. And then it was like all I could focus on was now I'm a mom and a wife, and I had to go right back to work. I mean, Noah was probably 8 weeks old, and I started slinging makeup again, and that was hard on my heart.
Yeah.
My husband and I were driving through Issaquah. We don't live there anymore, but we used to
Is
drop.
that a neighborhood?
It's a neighborhood. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a city where I used to live.
Got it.
During the hardest point where God really like restored our marriage and everything. So I have such a soft spot in my heart for this place.
Yeah.
Because we left where we were, and then he restored us in this city.
Yeah.
And so we're driving through, and I'm just like having all these visceral memories of like dropping little baby Noah off with strangers at Adventure Care.
Yeah.
And he hated
Yeah.
it, but I had to go to work.
Oh,
So there's just so much hard. So I never want people to look at my life and be like, wow, you got it so easy. Like my life is just like anybody else's. I just choose to live it out loud. Like,
yeah.
And share it with people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wild.
How did we go from that slinging makeup to being a recurring guest on the Kelly Clarkson show?
Oh my gosh, it's like a 10-year
How
overnight success
is that-
story.
Oh, man.
So this is so fun. So when we were super broke and we started working for a local magazine. So our friend Jeff that helped us with our first cookbook, he introduced us to this little local magazine, and my husband started learning photography. So this is 10, 12 years ago. No, 2013. So 11 years ago. And he was like, hey, could you do a cover shoot? And I'm like, I'm not a photographer. I'm not a food stylist. There's no way. And he said, you're good at what you do. Go to the Goodwill, hit up World Market, find a couple of props, and we're shooting chili.
Wow.
And so I set it up at my sister's house.
3 cheers to World Market. Can we get them as a sponsor?
Yes.
I freaking love World
I
Market.
love World, and it makes me feel good to walk through the store.
Okay, we're going to get back to your story, but
Yeah,
do
do
you
it.
know that there are golden tickets at World Market?
I'm obsessed.
I'm obsessed.
I have
want to
literally-
find
oh,
one so bad.
I found them before.
You have?
I can send you a picture. I have found a golden egg.
Oh.
I will go in weeknights, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
If you're listening, stay away on the weekends. On a weeknight, you are 100% going to find it.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
When I have a Sabbath in the midweek, sometimes if I speak on weekends, my Sabbath is a Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yep.
I almost always go to World Market
Have
as
you
part of
found
like.
one yet?
No, I've never found one. I just like to kind of peruse. John Mark Comer teaches not to shop on your Sabbath, so I try to sometimes honor that. But it just makes me feel so good to walk
does
through
good.
it.
No.
It's just
it's
so
a form of
beautiful.
therapy.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Anything that lifts that little heart
Yeah.
up.
Yeah,
Even
that's
if you
right.
need to buy a pillow on your Sabbath.
That's
I
exactly
say,
right.
Buy
Thank
the
you.
pillow.
Thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're collecting all the things to take pictures of chili.
Yes. So we take the pictures of chili. Fast forward to Jeff getting sick and calling Mike and saying, hey, he walked through a leukemia journey and he's
Wow.
great. He's doing wonderful
Yeah.
now. And he says, I need you to take these cover photos. And Mike's like, I don't think I'm good enough. So Mike takes the cover photos, and that really was the birth of our photography business. Was
Wait,
like,
do y'all do your pictures still?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
My husband, I make all the food and Mike takes the pictures. Yeah.
It says so on the cover.
Homeboy's a genius. He is so good at what he does.
I did not listen. We have so many of these recipes to talk about. I did not realize your husband took these pictures.
Yes. And so Mike is self-taught. I learned the craft of food styling. Isn't that wild?
Unbelievable.
Look at how good.
This was one of the ones I thought she's playing chess while we're playing checkers.
Oh, yeah.
Sprinkle shortbread cookie Sammys. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
With strawberry buttercream on the inside. And you got to use the dehydrated strawberries because that's where you get that power punch of flavor.
Yes.
You don't have time to mess around with fresh
Right.
strawberries.
Okay. So he's been taking all your pictures.
Yes. So I am a little
Wild.
hustler.
Yes,
and
you
God's
are.
given me the ability to like reach out, just
Yeah.
reach out. And I have a great story. So I reached out to a photography agent in Seattle.
Yeah.
And she was very condescending and she tore my appearance up and she said all these things and she was being a little show-offy. And she's like, well, this is how I bid a contract because I wanted Mike to have an agent. I wanted Mike to have somebody putting him out there and getting him jobs that was beyond what I could do.
Yeah.
And this was, in the early days and we didn't have a lot. And I went on the
Yes.
Rachel Ray show and I was wearing an old bra.
Well, hold on.
This
I
is
went
great.
on the Rachel Ray show. How did that even happen?
Okay. So I got to get back to this story because it's going to be so encouraging for people.
Okay, great.
So just a little timeline. Started out at my little local TV station. There was a producer
Got it.
there.
Okay.
Oh, so through 425 magazine, they called and said, you did this noodle cover. We want to do these noodles for Chinese New Year on the show.
Will you come cook it?
Will you come
the
cook it?
Lord,
The Lord did it.
Look at that path.
And
paths of righteousness for his name's sake.
Yes,
That's it.
amen.
Wow.
And I said, yeah, I'll do it. How
my
cool.
gosh. Okay.
That started it. Then a producer there who had just started, her name is Kate, she said, you're really a natural. You should pursue television. And I thought, could it pay my bills? I literally have nothing. Like I had to buy the groceries to come in to do the ramen
do the
noodle
noodles?
shoot. Yeah. Oh yeah. 10, 15 years ago when I was doing that, I had no money, but you had to buy your own stuff to do your shoot on the little local shows. You still do. So I said, well, is there money in that? And she was like, yeah, there's good money if you're good at it and you can get an agent. And I was like, okay, well, do you know anybody? And she's like, no. So then 6 months later, after I'm doing the show regularly, I'm a regular little gal. I'm out there every single month. I'm making grilled cheese and silly things.
Yeah.
And she said, do you remember when I told you I didn't know anybody? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, I lied. I just didn't know how much I was going to love you. And I was like, oh,
Liar.
really? And she said,
Sweet.
I was a producer on the Rachel Ray show for years, and I think you and Rachel would have a blast. And I was like, okay, the Rachel Ray show? I was thinking like
Right.
Good Morning Portland. Like
right.
I wasn't thinking like big leagues. And at this point, we're still self-publishing our books. We had no
gosh.
publisher.
Mike's still taking the pictures.
Mike's still taking the pictures.
Oh my gosh.
And
This is so cool.
She hooks me up with the producers out there, and they said no for a year. And I remember one of their EPs was like, if you're ever in New York, maybe we'll have a meeting. And I told Mike, I said, we got to get to New York. We got to get to New
Twice
York.
I've done that in my life where someone says, if you're ever in fill in the blank, let's meet. And I go, book
I will
a
be
flight.
here.
Book
You
a flight.
you said that like, hey, if you're ever in Nashville, and I was like, looking at the flights,
That's
I will
exactly
be
right.
there.
Yeah, exactly.
You
That's
got to
what we
make
do.
it.
Yeah.
Yes. So we threw a workshop in New York, and we had no money, and it
Brilliant.
was $8,000 to rent the studio. And I used Karen Mordecai's beautiful Sunday supper studio. And I
Yeah.
remember her assistant saying, I need a $4,000 deposit today if you're going to book. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have $4,000. I said, could you give me a couple days? And she was
Yeah.
like, yeah. So I told Mike, I said, I'm just going to put it online and we're going to sell $1,000 a ticket for the people to come to this workshop. And we sold 4 tickets that day.
Jeez.
I'm not joking. And $4,000 at that time, it's still a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
But it was
a
so much
$1,000
money.
ticket is a lot of money.
A lot of money. A lot
But you only
of
had to
money.
sell 4 to make
I
that
only had to
deposit.
sell 4.
Dude.
And then I sold 4 more
Hustler.
to cover the workshop. And I invited Ina Garten. I
Yeah.
invited the editor, people that I didn't know. And
Yeah.
you know what was wonderful? Ina Garten's assistant wrote me back and said, so thank you for the
Yeah.
invite. She
Yeah.
can't make it this weekend, but we forget that you have the ability to get on Google, figure out where people are, invite them. Make a friendship, and be genuine. Don't just be schmarmy like a hanger-on.
That's right.
Be genuine in it and your purpose. And I was like, okay, well, we got to New York, so we got out there and we had the meeting, and they tested me out with their culinary producer to see if I actually had real chops. And then still, when we left, I didn't book the show, and I was like, I got to book the show. We got to book the show. So I remember just writing a little email. It's like, hey, it's kind of like time to jump or get off the pot, like all those kind of things. And I didn't say the bad word. And I didn't say that to her either. But then she was like, well, what does this date look like? And I remember, I think it was like December 4th or December 16th. And I was like, it sounds great.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you haven't even looked at your calendar.
No
idea if it'll
clear.
work, but I will
no
make it
idea
work.
if it'll
Dude,
work.
I've done it.
And my brother and my husband came with me, and it was like the coolest experience. And I had no idea what God was going to do through that.
Yeah.
I remember being on national television and Rachel Ray saying, like, this girl is one of us. She knows what it's like to choose between toilet paper and potatoes. That is, and people resonate with that. Like, we're all struggling for something.
Yes.
So yeah, that's how I started. And then
so
from there it goes
where
to there.
The Mike story intersects again, where you were getting him
the
agent?
photography agent. Yes. So I meet with this woman, and she tears me up, and I was literally trying to hold back tears, but during the meeting, she was kind of flaunting how she runs a bid for a shoot, and she's like, well, I bid out for lights, and I bid out for this, and she's like, do you even write your bids like this? And she kind of shows me, and I was like, I'd never seen anything like that. And I just kind of memorized
what does this
it.
word mean?
Yes. And I was like, oh gosh, okay. And I just remember reading it and like memorizing it and thinking, okay, Lord, thank you for that, because now I know how to properly bid a shoot.
That's right.
And it changed our business.
Wow.
It absolutely changed our business. And I stopped charging $150 and we're moving into $5,000, which was more money than then I'm like, you can charge people that? And then it was like, oh, there's marketing departments that have all kinds of access to everything. So we teach this to people like freely, because my audience is never going to be your audience. And maybe we share, but the pie is big enough.
Yeah, that's right. A couple of years, a decade ago, a manager had me bid to write an musician's bio. And so I put in my bid. I put in my whatever. And he called me and said, you said you would charge us $50. Every other person said they would charge us $500. You could have gotten $500. I'm only paying you $50, so you never forget to do more research before you put in a bid.
Wow.
And I've never
changed
forgotten.
Your life.
Craig.
Yes.
I've never forgotten. Thank you, Craig. I mean, because he's like, you didn't research the market.
No.
You just put in like an amateur.
Yes.
And
you read like an amateur. Absolutely.
But we're hiring you because we want you to write it.
Yes.
But you made $450, and at the time, $500. And still, $500 is a big deal. But at the time, $500 was like, can I pay my bills this month?
Yes.
And he was like, we're paying you $50.
Because that's what you put yourself out.
That's right.
And isn't it cool how God just reveals it? So this woman thought she had a little leg up, and the Lord the whole time was showing me.
Was teaching us.
This is how you're going to write your bids.
That's exactly right.
This is what you're going to go for.
Yeah.
This is the golden standard now.
Yeah.
And then now you're going to learn how to negotiate in big old boardrooms and ask what their budgets are.
Yeah.
What is your budget? Are we working with $175,000? Like more money than I could ever think of? I mean, you get them to put that out there first. And then you build your bids around that.
I only need $150.
I'm saving you money.
I'm save you $25,000.
Yes.
Meanwhile, on the inside, you're imploding at the idea of $150,000.
You're like literally like beads of sweat are falling down.
Yes,
like,
I get
Can
it.
I write that? Yes.
That's right.
Wild.
That's right.
And the same thing happened with the literary agency. It was like, okay, how do I bid how I would want to bid? So for our authors, like I'm in there like getting good high royalties. I'm not so worried about that advance. I want that high royalty and an excellent marketing plan.
Yeah.
And then you're set up.
Yeah.
So like,
That's
this
right.
is all just like the school of hard knocks where the Lord has opened doors and taught me so much and put me in front of people where I never want to be the smartest person in the room. I always want to be learning. I know that that's like a cliche thing that people say, but I feel so like fortunate. I'm even walking in here, I'm like, Lord, I'm so fortunate to be in Annie's presence and look what she's built. And no, that isn't even like a flattery thing. Like that's like, okay, Lord, how cool. And God wants that for us.
Yeah.
He wants that for us.
Hey, friend, just interrupting this conversation to tell you about one of our incredible partners, StoryWorth. Y'all, I love StoryWorth. I gave it to my parents for Christmas last year, and I finally get to give all of my family the finished book this year. It is so special. It is so good. Here's how it works. Each week, StoryWorth emails your loved one a thought-provoking question that you actually get to help pick and curate. Things like, what's the bravest thing you've ever done? Or how did you used to get to school every day? And then they just respond to that email with a story, long or short, it doesn't matter. After the year, StoryWorth compiles their stories and photos into a beautiful keepsake hardcover book that you'll be able to share and revisit for generations to come. That's what I cannot wait to give my family this year. I'm so excited. With StoryWorth, give those you love the most thoughtful personal gift from the heart and preserve their memories and stories for years to come. Go to storyworth.com/thatsoundsfun and you'll save $10 on your first purchase. That's storyworth.com/thatsoundsfun to save $10 on your first purchase. Okay, now back to our conversation with Danielle.
That sounds fun.
Why do y'all stay in Portland? Why haven't you moved to New York? I mean, you fly across the country to be on Kelly Clarkson once a month or something.
Because it's not who I am.
Okay.
It's just not. I love New York. I love to visit. I love LA. The show was in LA for 5 years.
Yeah.
And I'm not out there that often. It's like monthly is great. And then I'll
Yeah.
do the Today Show monthly. Like I
Yeah.
head back on December 12th. So when this little guy airs.
This day.
Yeah, I'll be on the Today Show, you
Oh,
guys.
yay.
Yes. Talk about
Yeah.
all my favorite Christmas food gifts.
Yeah,
Which will
okay.
be cute. So
Oh,
we'll
that's
back that up for
great.
this guy.
Yes.
But I like my life. And it's so cool because people are always like, oh, this is so cool what you do. But it's not who I am. Like I love Jesus and my family and my friends. And I love to be in my sweatpants with no makeup on and
Yeah.
telling jokes. Like that's who Danielle is.
Yeah.
And for me to just be vulnerable and share Jesus with the world. And he happens to use food as the vehicle.
Yeah.
But it's just not. I mean, if God ever opens the door and says, hey, it's time for y'all to move, we'll move.
Sure.
100% I'm
Sure.
open to it. But right now it just feels great out in Seattle. Like
But
we're
your
just
kid's happy, your husband's happy, you're
Yes.
happy. And
Totally.
are both of your families there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
both all
that's
of our
tough.
families out there.
Yeah.
So it's good. We like
Yeah.
it.
It's hard because figuring out where to be when you're an entrepreneur like you are,
Yeah.
figuring out what city to be in really matters because
does.
you have to take me. I mean, I'm not a West Coast person. I love West Coast.
Yeah.
But I mean, I had to be in LA a couple of weeks ago but you have to go, I'm here. Let's
Yeah.
take every meeting.
Yes.
But now when I'm in New York, I'm like, hey, I'll be back next month. I'm
yes.
here for
I'll
10
see you next time.
That's right.
Yes.
And so living there has made career things there easier.
Yes.
But LA, I'm always like, if you need me, you've got
I'm here
4
for
days.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's so cool too because you've stretched yourself and you've put yourself out there and you're living literally in 2 cities.
Yeah.
God's blessing that with new opportunities and new people that you're meeting and it's all for his glory and your good.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that is the coolest thing in the whole world.
It's really
and it's
cool.
a stretching.
It-
It's
yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And there's got to be like teary times too.
Oh,
like I
about
feel like
once
my
a
life
month. Yeah.
I'm coming off a bender of crying. I mean, I've
Are
been
you?
crying for like this last week.
Yeah.
And the Lord's just he just tenderizes us.
Yeah.
When you're stepping out in faith.
Talk about whatever you want to about
Yeah.
your summer.
Oh my
That
gosh,
you had to lay so much down. What do you
our
mean?
summer was difficult. So I have a tendency to overwork, and it's something that gives me pride. It makes me feel good. The Lord calls me to it. I find a lot of value in work, and
Yeah.
sometimes I don't turn it off.
Yeah.
And so I went to Italy where I taught in Italy. I
Yeah.
said no for so many times, and I went to Tuscany. I was there for 2 weeks, and it changed my life because I didn't know that my nervous system could calm down the way that it did, and I wasn't
Wow.
expecting that at
Wow.
all. And I got there and I thought, I got to go home. I'm out of my comfort zone. I don't know anybody. Like I barely knew the woman that I was teaching with.
Yeah.
Lovely people.
Yeah.
And then all these women came together and it was the most life-changing time for me because I was unplugged.
Yes.
And I remember just crying in Tuscany, thanking the Lord that I couldn't answer my email. I could send my kids and husband like a little text at night, like, love ya, I'm safe. It was so good to be with me and Jesus. I just turned another book proposal in that I'm so excited about, and I wrote all about just being alone in Italy with the Lord.
Yeah.
And it is, God wants an Italy for all of us, no matter where we are.
Yeah,
Maybe you
that's
can't
right.
jump on a plane and fly half across the world
That's
and
right.
teach somewhere, but God's got this moment for us. And I had to completely unplug. And then when I got back in, just diving right back into heavy summer, shooting a book, because Mike and
Yeah.
we shot a kid's book.
Yeah.
It rocked my world, and I was sad.
Wow.
And I had to work through like learning now that I know my nervous system can calm down. Now, Lord, what do you need to strip away so that I can have balance? And I remember hearing Joyce Meyer talk about in the early part of her ministry, how she was so stretched thin and she couldn't do it anymore. And she had to lay a lot down. And God ended up, and I'm paraphrasing, but God ended up healing her life. And when she came back into her ministry, she was accomplishing 10 times more than where she was. And so I told that to Jesus. I'm like, I can't have the reins so tight anymore. I need your help and I need to lay some things down because the way that my body felt, I didn't know that was possible.
Wow.
I have been at a fever pitch for so long.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't even recognize the signs in our body.
That's kind of a restaurant lifestyle too,
It
right?
is. And food and then running so many different things.
Yeah.
It's like you get used to all of it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we run it.
Yeah,
We're up at
we just
7,
do
8.
it.
We're up at 5 o'clock in the morning and we're doing our things. And then we're literally at 7 o'clock at night. I shouldn't feel like crash and burn.
Yeah,
I can't
that's
even
right.
open my little eyelids anymore.
Yeah.
That's not a life that I want to choose.
Yes.
And so God's just was very faithful and so tender and convicting my heart, not a way that it was like, oh, woe is me. It was like, oh, there's a stripping here right now. Like there's a fire going on in my heart and in my soul. And then just reconnecting too with my husband. Like I think that we've been married for almost 17 years and you forget that how to connect when you're just go.
Yeah.
So our kids are back in school and we reprioritize because it's funny when you're married for that long, you remarry a new version of that person.
Every 5 years is what the counselor next door. We're next to a counseling center, and they say every 5 years you're married to someone new.
And I want to make sure I'm not perfect. I'm a mess and I have an anger problem. But I want to make sure that I'm still soft and lovable and kind because I can be sharp and rude. And that I'm having a space where my husband feels accepted and loved and all the things. And we want to be better versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
And so right now I would take the marriage that we have right now over any other version of our marriage before.
Wow.
So it's been good.
We're making an adjustment in my schedule that we're calling one hat days.
Yeah.
Where I only do one job a day. So Mondays I'm a CEO. Wednesdays, I'm a podcaster. Thursdays, I'm a writer. So we're trying as best we can. It's not going to be perfect, but as best we can, one of the ways to slow down my nervous system and kind of unload the pace that we've been going at is to make a one hat day every day. Is there anything you've put into your life like that has helped you keep some of that alone in Italy? Okay.
Yeah, I walk around the mall.
I love it.
I grew up walking around the mall.
Yeah.
Like Mike and I will drop our kids off at school sometimes and walk around the mall.
Yeah.
I also have this little weird spot on my couch. It's like indented now that has kind of become like my office. It's where I work.
Yeah.
And I've got my stacks of notebooks. I'm very analog, so I like to write everything down. I'm tactile. So I've got all my notebooks and everything, and I just kind of hang out in this little spot and breathe. And I've also started reading my Bible in the morning. I think that sounds silly, but sometimes at night I would read it. But if I wake up and it's quiet and have the one light on and I'm spending time with the Lord only, or I have a pile of clothes that I never fold in my closet, I will lean on my clothes and spend time with Jesus.
Wow.
And it's funny because the Lord is everything to me, but I wasn't making time for him. And it gets easy to talk about God all the time but not take time for the intimacy with the Lord.
Yeah.
And if I'm not creating a space for intimacy with Jesus, I can't create a space for intimacy in my marriage or intimacy with my children.
Yeah, that's
like
right.
Or intimacy in your friendships with my parents. Like there's so much that literal trickle-down effect comes from spending time with Jesus.
Yeah.
And I hadn't made it a priority. I didn't even learn the power of the Holy Spirit until I turned 40. I grew up in church. I knew we'd talk about the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
I didn't realize his comforting power until I was 40 years old. Wow. I didn't understand that on this side of heaven, we have this tool that we won't experience in heaven because we'll be living imperfect.
Yeah.
And I get chills now thinking like this is my helper, my helpmate, my guide.
Yeah.
Like that is something that I want to share with people.
Yeah.
But that comes with intimacy with Jesus and reminding yourself, what does it mean when I'm reading this stuff?
Yeah.
Like it's so good when you do read the Gospels because you're reading them every single month.
Yeah.
But God is interjecting incredible
Brand new
stuff
yeah.
every single month.
Wild. Yes. I've been speaking a couple of times lately, and every single time I'm saying to people, read Psalm 23 once a day for the rest of the year.
Yes.
Just if you will start your day just reading those 6 verses once a day for the rest of the year, that will start something different in your day. That is this Holy Spirit connect. And there is something that slows you down for your whole pace.
Yes.
If Psalm 23 is what sets your day.
Yeah. And
really
praying out
interesting.
loud, like, Lord, reset pray it out loud.
Yeah.
God, I not a name it and claim it weirdo, but
yeah.
like claim this over my body. I speak healing into my brain.
Yeah.
The ruminating thoughts where I'm running stuff back. I'm a runner. I'll run it back down. I'll run it back over. I don't want to live that way.
Yeah.
So if I'm asking, I'm giving this to you. I have no strength to I need you to take this from me.
Yes.
God's been so faithful. And I feel like this September, there's been this new life. God's getting ready to do something new. And I feel like whenever I feel like that, he's doing that in his church too.
Yeah,
like
because that's when you launched the YouTube show.
Yes.
Is this fall. So you have this summer of laying things down.
Yes.
And then you launched this beautiful cooking show on YouTube that people are loving.
Yes.
Yeah.
The show is so cool. Rustic Joyful Food. And it's just, I want people to make beautiful food. I have an affinity for beautiful things, but it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
I mean, we're literally shooting in my friend Annie's kitchen. She's passed away. And so it's such a legacy. She passed away of colon cancer 2 years ago. And her daughter has become such a good friend. Like they're like my family.
Yeah.
And so just to film there, it is
a beautiful kitchen.
It's
I
incredible.
Can't believe you're getting to
it's
do
like
it
a
there.
French chateau.
And they just let you come over.
Yeah.
And
We set up and lights and camera and crew come in.
Yeah.
And Lucy is an interior designer and she is literally the art director extraordinaire. And she is so gifted and she just sets up and the florals and the dishes that we're using are literally like creamware from the 1700s. And people don't realize, but it's such a gift. And Annie's legacy just living on. And she's in heaven, like just loving it.
Leaning
I know
over
it.
the banister.
Loving
she
it.
Loves it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're
Yeah.
right. Will you talk a little bit about your Christmas episode that released last week?
Absolutely.
What did y'all make?
So we did prime rib, and I'm a real big advocate for make whatever you can afford.
Yes.
Do not break the bank for Christmas.
Yes.
So I feel, but prime rib right now, if you skip fast food, I went to teriyaki the other day, it was $70 for 4 of us to eat.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if you skip fast food, you can buy yourself a little hunk of prime rib.
Yeah.
And you can make that stretch. So your 4-pound prime rib can feed 8 people. Easy.
Oh, wow.
And you can make a creamy potato side, like slice it nice and thin. You slice it in half so everyone's getting a smaller piece.
Yeah.
But you can have a pretty fancy dancy little Christmas dinner.
Yeah.
So we did asparagus gratin and I wanted everything to be hands
Yum.
off. Oh, cream and butter abound in this episode. Let me just throw that out there. There is no room for calories for this episode because we got a wheel of brie larger than my face. I'm not joking. So this cheese company sent me a wheel of brie for the Christmas episode.
Perfect.
And it was just like the gooeyest, most amazing. We're dropping
brie.
honeycomb and pomegranate seeds on it.
Yum.
It was just a gift to unwrap the cheese.
I need you to talk about how you feel about salami because before we started recording, you were losing your mind. I was like, stop
I'm
until we hit
kind
go.
of over hot meat. Like, I love meat. Listen, I'm a meat eater. Last night I was on the phone to my sister and she was like, you know how I always say there's never a potato I don't love? Well, my niece was like, I love a bean. And I said, your aunt loves meat.
Yeah.
Give me a steak, a burger, a pork chop, you
Yeah.
name it. I'm a meat girl. But I'm kind of over salami on tables.
Mostly in
Charcuterie. I'm just kind
situation.
of over because it just sits out. And I think because I've done the catering thing for so long, watching people eat salami and just the crumbles and bits.
Can't do.
Just to let our listeners know, you shouldn't eat over a buffet. Let me just throw it out
Lord
there.
have mercy.
Unless
The
your
idea you have to
mama
say
never
that.
told you, you can't dip a chip and crunch over the bowl.
Your biggest fan, Pam Downs, is shocked you're having to say that. My mother loves you so deeply. She's shocked you're having to say that. You have to tell people not to eat over a
Grown
buffet.
people. We're not talking about like 18, 20. I'm fresh out of high school. We're talking about
Proper
grown
adults.
women, grown men, elegant women.
So what do you put on a charcuterie board if you don't have space for salami?
Cheese.
Just cheese?
Cheese. So I like to pick 3 different types.
Okay.
So kind of a funky one if your guests like funk.
Yep.
I'm not a funky cheese gal.
Okay.
Brie is as funky as it gets for me,
Okay.
except I do love Camberzola. That's
Okay.
I love a Camberzola. But it still can't have the funk on it. And then I love a coastal cheddar. And
Okay.
then I
love
or
a
maybe
coastal cheddar.
a goat cheese, like a mild goat cheese.
Yeah.
And then you've got to have a jam. I love spicy jam, like a fig jam is really delicious. And you can also use up anything in your fridge. If you have old apples, old pears, stew
smart.
them and add a little bit of sugar. Add a little, yes, and cook all that water out, and you're making yourself a jam. Food is too expensive to throw anything out or buy specific.
Yeah.
So the necessity is the mother of invention for me when it comes to food. And we were doing an asparagus shoot, and I was like, well, what can I do with this? An asparagus
Things
shoot.
I've never said in my life. We did our asparagus shoot.
One of our clients is an asparagus company out of Mexico.
Yeah, there you go.
I thought, why don't we gratin these bad boys?
Wow.
And it just turned out so good that I feel like I will never not gratin an asparagus.
Yeah.
And all you're doing is you're laying your raw asparagus, no pre-cooking, into your cute little dish, butter, olive oil, garlic. You're covering it in Parmesan cheese, heavy cream, and breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
There's no way to
Yum.
mess it up.
Yeah,
It is
yum.
heaven.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
And so we'll link, because the show came out last week, so we can go
Yes.
straight and watch
Go
it.
straight in and watch
I
it.
got to watch episode 2 is the one I've watched. Tell me.
Which one?
You
Episode
had
2.
on- Oh,
Coco
man.
Van? Was it Coco? A reddish?
Yes,
Coco
yes,
Van.
yes. That was the meat of choice. Yes, it was. Your show is exactly what we want. It's
Yes,
exactly what we want.
thank
It's so
you.
friendly. It's so
Yes.
inviting. I had it, but when I can't fall, well, I try to read a book sometimes. Sometimes at night, my
Yeah.
brain is too tired. That's why we're
I
doing.
YouTube it. I
yeah.
watch a little YouTube.
Because I can't read anymore. I read for my
No.
job. So I read
Yes.
3 books a day sometimes.
Yes.
And so I get home and I'm like, I would love to read.
Yeah.
I will also just lay here and watch Ted Danson's podcast or Rustic Joyful Food
Or
Show.
or my kids like to watch this lady, Carissa Eats. And she's like,
Oh.
it's so delicious and so creamy.
No.
And my kids will literally, and they'll do it now. Like,
Yes.
this is so delicious. My kids are so funny. The other day I made cabbage soup.
Uh-huh.
And my son
Yum.
came in, he's 13. I love cabbage soup.
Yeah.
And he was like, this is dinner? And I was like, yeah. He's like, cabbage soup? And I was like, yeah. So he's quiet for a minute. And then he starts to sing, I never thought my life would be anything more. And I'm like, he just starts to sing the Willy Wonka tune. I'm like, how are you even my kid? You're
Yeah.
so much funnier and
Yeah.
cleverer than I ever will be.
I love it. That's so fun. What's
Yeah.
your hope for the show?
My hope for the show is that people learn to love right where they're at.
Yeah.
And I know it's the most beautiful setting, but I want to take the sort of like there's this elitism in food.
Yeah.
It's got to be
Yeah.
the best. It's
Yeah.
got to be the best of the best of the best.
Yeah.
I want people to use the food that they have.
Yeah.
I also want them to give themselves permission to cook.
Yes.
We in the fish episode, I'm burning the fish. Like I'm like,
Fantastic.
your family's gonna eat it.
Yeah.
and
It'll
you're-
be fine.
It's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
And I also want people to know, like, you are the boss of the pots and pans.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
the fire's going, people get super nervous.
Yeah.
They want it to be perfect. I'm like, turn the heat off.
Right.
Start back over.
Right.
You can't mess it up that bad. And
Yeah.
if you do mess it up that bad, you just got to take control back and
Yeah,
turn it
that's
off.
really good.
Set it aside. That happens in life too.
Yeah, amen.
Like, let's just turn it off.
Yeah.
And then God can show you how to get back in a healthy way.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
Hey friends, just interrupting this conversation one more time to tell you about one of our incredible partners, Aura Frames. Last minute shoppers, you know how difficult and stressful it can be to find a great gift. Luckily, you still have time to get a thoughtful, personal gift for your family. A digital picture frame from Aura Frames loaded up with all your favorite pics. My parents have one. They love it. My sister has one. She loves it. Aura Frames was named the #1 digital frame by Wirecutter, The Strategist, and Wired. It'll be such a nice surprise for whoever, your mom, dad, grandma, your sister, and the gift that keeps on giving. Because even if you hand it off, you can upload new photos from the Aura app and invite the rest of your family to join in on the fun. And it is easy for grandma too. She can just swipe the top of the frame to get past all the photos everyone else sent and get straight to you. So save yourself the hassle of last minute shopping and save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com. And my friends get $35 off their best-selling Carver mat frame by using the promo code FUN at checkout. That's AURA frames.com, promo code FUN. This deal is exclusive to our friends, so get yours now in time for the holidays. Terms and conditions apply. And now back to finish up our conversation with Danielle.
That sounds fun.
I'm so glad you're on today's show today, too, because then we can link to that and show all your gifts.
Yes!
But I particularly need your help.
Yes.
I have an unfair advantage right now because we do a food competition in our family at Christmas every year.
Oh, you're gonna
And this
win.
year it is
competitive.
It's deck the balls, and we all have to bring 24 balls of
Yes.
some food, sweet or savory. But it has to be one thing. And
Yes.
here's how we're judged.
Okay.
Taste,
Yes.
shape. So
Oh.
they can't be oblong. They
Okay.
actually have to be
Yes.
round, spherical.
Yes.
And then design and
Oh.
presentation. So I'm leaning toward a meatball with a cheese on the inside.
I like it.
Do you have
Like a Juicy Lucy.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
a-
What
okay.
would you have entered? What would you have entered into our Deck the Balls
first
competition?
thing that comes to mind is some sort of like delicious cream cheesy cranberry jalapeno bite.
Oh,
and then maybe we're
interesting.
rolling that in like pecans or some like crunchy, even like toasted cornflakes
so
with butter.
almost like a mini cheese ball.
yeah, like a teeny tiny
is
mini cheese ball.
fascinating.
That was the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Like 1975, old school food. But then I go to a
Great.
meatball because I'm a meatball fan.
Yeah.
I would pick a meatball over anything any day of the week.
Uh-huh.
And you
What's
could,
my meat?
Ooh.
Am I going to need to go like half pork, half beef to make it really juicy?
Yeah, I think so. You're
Okay.
going to have to add maybe you put a little bacon in the food processor.
Oh,
Not
great.
super over smoked because you don't want it to overpower.
Yeah.
But maybe a little bacon in that food processor.
I don't really use my kitchen, so I don't tend to win this competition
You're
ever,
gonna win.
but I work hard.
Oh, you're going to win.
Man,
you're going to win.
I still have real feelings about my butterboard year because I did a croque madame butterboard.
That's genius.
Ham and cheese. Oh, I got destroyed. I got
well,
destroyed.
who won?
Well, Sally. My sister Sally's won both years. This year there is a trophy, and Sally made a point in the family text to say, interesting that the 2 years I've won there have not been any prizes. And so she's really, do you know the other thing we do that I think you're going to love is we kind of had a dream. We do monkey bread every year on Christmas morning.
That's amazing.
We've had a dream of how you could do that with chicken nuggets.
Yes.
And we call it a nugget loaf. And we are on our 5th year of trying to make it work between wrapping. It's what it's become is like a version of chicken minis.
Yes.
And so.
But you need them to cook the whole way in and then
That's
not
right.
be soggy and kind of crazy in the middle.
That's right. It's very challenging.
Oh,
It's actually
that would
supremely
be
challenging.
No, that is super challenging.
But we don't do Christmas on Christmas. We do Christmas Eve. We call it Christmas Steve. We do it 3 days later.
Yes.
So that everybody goes to other
their
families and then we all come together.
I love
So
that.
Chick-fil-A's open. So we get nuggets and that's
to
how we
do your thing.
Yeah. So
oh, this is amazing.
it's an excellent experience, but I've got to win Deck the Balls.
You have to win Deck
I
the Balls.
really wanna win Deck
now,
the Balls.
I'm not above a little friendly competition or even buying off the judges. What are the judges?
It's mom and dad.
Mom and dad.
Yeah.
Let's cater to their taste buds.
Listen,
let's cater to their
Mom's
taste
not
buds
eating
today.
dessert. She doesn't like it anymore. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
And so anyone who brings in sweet is going to regret.
They're done.
Yeah.
So we want to lead your sweet little sister-in-law into sweets.
Yeah.
We want to lead her into sweets. I'm very sorry for listening.
No, my actual sister Sally.
Yeah. Oh, your actual
Yeah,
sister Sally.
easier to lead her astray.
Easier. Okay,
Yeah.
easier to lead her. We're gonna lead her into sweets.
Yeah.
And we're gonna take you savory. And what's your mom just loving right now?
Right. Well, she loves olives, but I don't. Who cares? I'm not
matter.
judging.
You don't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe there's an olive in the dead
Wait a
center.
minute. Have you seen? I haven't had them before, but I've seen like little fried olives that are like stuffed with little cheese. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Little panko crust. I might be into like a little. Wait.
It's
what
not
about
a
like
circle.
an
It's not a
arancini?
perfect-
What about an arancini?
I don't know what that is.
It's like a Italian rice ball. It's stuffed with cheese, but you roll it and you literally like string and goo and you dip it in a little. I think, and then you cook
Can
the
I
rice.
do that?
Yes. 100%.
Is that in one of your cookbooks?
It's not, but I'm going to get to work for you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to make sure because you pop a little cube of mozzarella or Monterey Jack, something that oozy, and you make the risotto rice the day before. You can even bake it or put it in your crock pot.
Right, yep.
Because you want mushy rice.
Got it.
And you're going to season that all up, and then you make them in your perfect ball, wet, cold hands.
Okay.
So cold ice water, dip them in ice water. And then you're going to put them in a little egg wash and flour and roll them up.
And then deep fry them.
Then deep fry 'em.
I'm going to bring out the deep fryer. Everyone else.
You're going to win.
I'm really excited about it. They were, this feels like a year. And I think everyone's going to do the turn your, balls into a Christmas tree.
Yes.
That's my guess. So I was thinking, I'm going to lay it out like a garland. I'm going to get actual garland and lay it out like ornaments on a garland.
Oh, I think that's you're going to have an advantage.
Yeah. Well,
you're
they're also going to hear this 20 days before it happens or 15 days before it happens.
They don't know. We're leading people astray.
Yeah,
I've got an
listen,
entire other strategy that's going. We're really just talking. We're cooking with gas here, okay?
It is one of the most fun things now that my generation has become the adults.
Yes.
Along with the grandparent generation to be like, we love competitions.
Yes.
But we aren't like, when we go on our summer family vacation, we aren't like playing a game of football. Some families do. We don't do a Thanksgiving football game.
We're not either.
We don't have enough people.
No.
I mean,
we don't have enough stamina. Yeah. The kids do.
Yeah.
But you can't catch me out there with a football.
We don't, but we can do some food competitions.
Yes.
We can do that.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much.
Okay, thank you for your help.
Yes.
What did we not say that you want to make sure we say?
Oh my goodness, we talked about the book. We talked about my origin story. We talked about you were always there.
Beautiful.
And the cool part about the book is the you were always there part.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We
It's
talk about
you.
that.
I feel like women especially, we feel like we lose our identity to just life events.
Yeah.
I mean, you insert life event, motherhood, singleness, I mean, divorce, you name it. Like and I used to think if I could just get back to who I used to be, then everything will be okay.
Yeah, that's right.
And God had to really show my heart, like, you were never gone.
Yeah.
You were never gone.
That's it.
We get lost sometimes, but not for who we are.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's important for people to know.
That's beautiful.
And then just life is not so don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah,
This Christmas
that's it.
season, don't
That's it.
overspend, don't break the bank.
That's it.
Make a little Christmas gift. I mean, make some salts, make some jams.
Yeah.
I'm getting in my 40s now. I'm all about a poem or something that you made me.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be extravagant.
I'm really into this these jalapenos you cut up and make sweet.
Like a cowboy candy.
Yeah,
I
cowboy
make pepper
candy.
jam that is spicy and
that's it.
delicious,
Yeah.
loaded with jalapenos.
What a great gift. I love when people
Yes.
do that.
Me too.
Okay, last question I'm going to ask you before I ask
Yes.
you what sounds fun.
Yep.
We got butter, flour, sugar, joy.
Yep.
So that's going to show up in people's stockings. That's what the cookbook that people are
Yes.
getting this year. What is the first recipe they make? What's the one that you're like, you're going to think this is so fun to make?
Coconut macaroons.
Okay.
If you like coconut. And
Okay,
if you
great.
don't like coconut, right there, the whiskey cream cheese blondies.
Yeah.
Those are pretty special.
Okay. Whiskey, cream cheese, blondies.
Delicious.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're even the bangin' chocolate cake, the peanut butter cake in the back.
Oh,
it's just a
dude,
sheet
I
cake,
saw it.
and it is insanely
It's insane.
delicious.
I mean, prayer fudge, get out of here.
Oh, yeah.
I can, the way I can crush fudge is embarrassing.
yes,
I love it so
the
much.
way I can crush most things is embarrassing.
Right. I'm a professional with fudge. Yeah. It's a beautiful cookbook.
Thank you.
It's so fun.
And it's tested. Susan Vu, who is my recipe tester and food stylist on the Kelly Clarkson show.
Yeah.
She was the recipe tester in the book.
Oh,
and
cool.
so she just, everything she does is magical, but she was like, Danielle, this book is so solid.
Sweet.
So, I just feel good that it's tested. We tested all kinds of flour and butter because my biggest thing is for somebody to get a recipe and spend their money and time and for it to not work.
Yes.
So everything
Yes.
I write is basic.
Yes.
Super basic. No
Yes.
honeybee tears in anything I do.
Yeah.
Because I want it to be accessible for people.
That's right.
If you live in the middle of Missouri, you're not going to be able to find like a bay leaf that was babysat.
Yeah, that's right.
So you just need butter, flour, sugar, joy.
Yeah.
So there
I
you
love
go.
it.
Yes.
Okay. Well, then the last thing we have to ask you.
Yes.
Because the show is called That Sounds Fun. Danielle,
Yes.
what sounds fun to you? What do you
Going
do
to-
for fun?
Oh, what do I do for fun? I like to go to the grocery store.
Really?
I love to go to the grocery store. I love to go to restaurants.
What's your chain of choice of grocery stores? What do y'all have?
We have a Met Market, which is kind of fun.
Okay.
It's like
Yeah, I
your
don't
little
know it.
fancy dancy.
Okay. Like a
then we
Whole
have
Foods?
like a Whole Foods.
Okay.
I love Whole Foods. Love Met Market. I love a little farmers market-y action.
Yeah.
I love gardening. Like I'm literally an old lady with my garden. I will sit back there
it.
like they're my babies.
Yes.
I smuggled a tomato home from Italy, and we call it the Sienna Smuggler because I planted that bad boy, and I got 8 plants off of it, and a lot of tomatoes.
Wow.
And I will just be propagating this and I'm
Yes.
like,
Yes.
this is my little child.
Yeah.
My tomato child.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you put it in your carry-on?
I put it in my pocket.
Okay. And if they said,
customs.
"What is that?" and you're like, it's my snack.
Well, you know what's so funny? I got through customs and they're like, did you bring any produce back? And I was like, dear Father, please forgive me. I was like, no. Did you bring meat? And I was like, no.
No.
And then the woman looked in my eyes again and she said, no produce. And I was like, the tomato. And then I said, nope.
Just propagated
I
it.
hope I single-handedly don't destroy the American tomato crop
can't imagine.
with my
can't.
smuggled one cherry tomato.
Yeah.
Because I was.
Oh, it was a cherry
it was
tomato.
a cherry tomato.
You flew from Italy back to Seattle
Yeah.
with a cherry tomato in your pocket.
babysat the cherry tomato.
cannot.
And one of the women that was with us, I was looking for a plastic bag, and they don't have those. I mean, there's no like Ziploc bag in our Italian villa. So she's like, I took my medicine this morning. I have my little pill bag, and I was like, I'll take it. I babysat that
tiny.
tomato. I didn't want it to squish.
Yeah.
He had to be on. I mean, I literally had to keep him on lockdown, and he made it.
Unbelievable. Fantastic. Great answer. I love you. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having
Merry
me.
Christmas, my friend.
You too. Merry Christmas.
Oh, you guys, isn't she awesome? I love her so much. I love her so much. She's so funny and great ideas for our family competition coming up. Make sure you check out Danielle's new YouTube show, Rustic Joyful Food. Go follow her on social media. Tell her thank you so much for being on the show with me. If you enjoyed this episode, I think you'll love any of our previous episodes with Artie Sequeira. I adore her, including her 2019 Christmas episode. Those are all linked in the show notes below. If you have any questions from this episode, drop them in the Q&A box on your Spotify app if you're a Spotify listener, or send them to us on Instagram at That Sounds Fun Podcast. We'll try to answer them there for you. And if you need anything else from me, you know, I'm embarrassingly easy to find. Annie F. Downs on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, anywhere you need me, that's where you can find me. And I think that's it for me today, friends. Go out or stay home. Do something that sounds fun to you, and I will do the same. I'll tell you what sounds fun to me today is a weekend full of Christmas parties. I cannot wait. So y'all go have a great weekend. We'll see you back here Monday with our old pal. I'm glad to have him back, Anthony O'Neill. We'll see y'all Monday.
That sounds fun.
That sounds fun.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Check 1, 2 on the microphone. Annie F. down in your car to your home. Every week it's something new. A deep talk or an interview. She'll make you laugh, she'll make you cry. When it's dark out, she's a light. When you're down, get your fun.
Oh, that sounds fun.